may really change seats. You'll see my seat in the corner.
Just change nameplates and then see what happens.
You're good?
Yes.
Okay. Ready to roll?
Recording in progress.
Thank you. Welcome to the Chatham Township Committee meeting of January 23rd, 2024. Please join me in the flag salute. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thanks, everybody, for joining us this evening. Our township is a tight-knit community, so when one family suffers, we all mourn. It saddens me to share that Chatham Township resident Bailey Buell has passed away. Bailey was diagnosed in January of last year at the age of 9 with a rare pediatric cancer. She fought valiantly over the last year, and the Chatham community rallied around her as her Bailey's warriors, helping to raise $1 million for cancer research. She inspired our community with her bravery and her kindness. Our whole community mourns the loss of Bailey. There are no words. To Bailey's mom, Catherine, her dad, Daniel, and her sister, Summer, please know that your Chatham Township family mourns with you. We are heartbroken for your loss. I would like to ask for a moment of silence to honor this brave Chatham Township resident. Thank you. Before we begin our normal meeting schedule, I wanted to take a moment to address the break-ins and car thefts. Since January of 2023 in the township, there has been 1 home break-in, 9 attempted break-ins, and 2 stolen vehicles. While our police efforts and residents' efforts to secure their cars has dramatically reduced the number of car thefts in the last couple of years, the thieves have escalated their efforts by breaking into homes to get the car keys. This is a serious matter and the #1 priority for our Township Committee and our police. Resolving this issue needs to be a full court press, no stone left unturned. I have talked with our police chief, and I have the utmost faith in him and our police officers to do all they can to address these crimes. In addition to increasing patrols, the chief has coordinated with our neighboring towns and the county for resources and intelligence. I want to thank the chief and our officers for doing all they can to address this concern. Chatham Borough Mayor Carolyn Dempsey and I have spoken with the Morris County Prosecutor Bob Carroll and the Morris County Chief Bob McNally about resources and support. Our chief has and will continue to coordinate resources, and he's confident in the support he's received from the county to date. We've also spoken with our State Senator John Bramnick, the Governor's Office, and Congresswoman Sherrill's office to make them aware of the uptick in break-ins and to discuss resources and legislative solutions. I will continue to sound the alarm and press at all levels of government to make sure everyone is engaged in protecting our residents. Residents of both Chatham Township and Chatham Borough have asked to hear from both towns together, so Chief Miller and I will join with the borough, Chatham Borough Police Chief Brian Gibbons and Mayor Carolyn Dempsey, and county and federal representatives next week, February 1st, via Zoom, to discuss what's being done. I've also asked Chief Miller, who's here, to speak at the end of our reports this evening so he could address residents and answer any questions. Thank you. Let's move into reports. Committeeman McHugh.
All righty. I do have a couple things. A couple notes on the library and open space. Of their annual setup is not done yet, so that's coming shortly, so we'll wait till next month on that. But the Environmental Commission certainly has going to have difficulty being more active than they've set themselves up to be. They have really 2 big projects that they have planned for 2024. One is continuing the undertaking to reapply for Sustainable Jersey, which is a very large undertaking, and for recertification for the Silver Certificate for 2025. Well, it's due this year. Big dates are May for their first, and then July to try to get done. So There's a lot that goes into that program beyond setting out, good environmental and sustainable practices. It does result in possible interesting opportunities and grant opportunities for the township. The other big one is that they are planning to revisit this year the natural resources inventory, which hasn't been updated since 2014 or 13, I believe. So it's in the 10-year window. That actually is something that is helpful to the 27 closing in on us on a section of the master plan, and that's a piece that the planning board will be able to use, and that's a great undertaking, but it is a big undertaking. Beyond the yeoman's work they're doing for those two major items, they continue to plan their annual events, so please do check out the Facebook page, etc., for the various webinars, the plant sales, and those kinds of opportunities which will be upcoming. The general outlook is that the new normal here is weather extremes, and so the Environmental Commission is taking kind of an outlook around that, and some of their prioritized projects or look-sees are geared toward that for runoff and areas of soil erosion and these kinds of things. And they have some grants and projects they're pursuing in that regard. So as you hear, they're very, very, very busy. Beyond that, perhaps the closest big opportunity and next opportunity for a lot of residents to participate has to do with the Adopt a Drain program, which some of you may or may not have heard of or be familiar with. The drain in front of your house, when it's clear, the water is taken away. If it's not clear, I know that for years I walk across the street and get the leaves out, and so my neighbor doesn't have a big puddle in his front yard. That is something that is upcoming. Hopefully, signups can be started perhaps in February or maybe March, where it will be kicked off. I do have a couple personal notes on that, and nothing goes down a sewer drain. It's not that some things you can put down the sewer drain, which some believe, nothing goes down there. But my personal one is to reach out as a dog owner. There are other dog owners in town. The dog waste does not go down the sewer. It has happened, and we see it happening. And our poor DPW guys, after 6 months of fermentation, have to clean out a sewer drain. Let's do all ourselves a favor and not put anything down the drains. So that's what we have.
Thank you.
Yep.
Committeeman Lois?
Thank you. For Colony Pool, we have appointments tonight to fill out the committee, so we look forward to an upcoming preseason meeting for that. For the Department of Public Works, the mayor's asked me to continue to make my famous lists of improvements to the town. That would be like sort of a potholes and paint list. And I welcome any resident who has some input on things that they would like to see improved to email me. That's mlois, M-L-O-I-S, @chathamtownship.org. So I'd be happy to put that on the list. And Marty is also on the Public Works Committee with me, and he's agreed to create a prioritization of that list that hopefully we can address. And so for recreation, I'm looking forward to building a capital list there as well, and specifically opening public access to Esternay. And speaking of that access, that leads us to utilities, which is, I guess, work is set to begin, or as I understand it, work is planned to begin off of the public access that was granted to JCP&L for power improvements that they're making in the right-of-way.
Thank you. Committeewoman Rowland?
The Board of Health is offering free vaccines for those that are uninsured, underinsured. There are also free vaccines available at certain pharmacies around town. I would encourage everyone, if you can, to get a flu shot. The flu is absolutely awful this year. There are many strains that are just really taking people down. So if you're able to still get the flu shot, then I encourage everyone to do that. Also, it was a big day today with the Historical Society. The contract for the new renovations to the exterior of the building was signed today. That is a granted project to renovate and restore some of the exterior stairwells and replace a couple of windows. So you'll be seeing some scaffolding and some work done around the Mount Vernon Schoolhouse shortly.
Thank you. And Deputy Mayor Choi.
Good evening, all. On the rec front, one of the things that we reintroduced recently was the Chatham Recreation Ski and Snowboard program, which kicked off. It was delayed, ironically, for the first week due to a snowstorm. But it got off the ground last week, and we had a robust 104 eager Chatham snowboarders and skiers headed up to Shawnee Mountain for a delightful day. By all accounts, it was a success. There was one public service announcement I'd like to make for those parents whose children participate in the program. If your child does not have a helmet, we strongly recommend that you obtain one for your child, and you also remind your child to wear it while on the mountain. The Joint Rec Committee will also be meeting within a couple of weeks, so nothing to report there, but we'll have something once the agenda is put forth and some dialogues transpired there. You know, our township is blessed with a number of civic and development programs for our youth. One of them is the Girl Scouts here in Chatham. There are significant awards that are achieved by our Girl Scouts, bronze, silver, and gold. One of the things I'd like to do is provide a platform here to recognize our Chatham Girl Scouts for notable achievements. The Silver Award is granted to those Girl Scouts who dedicate 40, 50 hours researching an issue that they find near and dear to their heart that's affecting the community. They plan and execute a solution that addresses that particular issue. It's notable, only 10% of Girl Scouts achieve this award, so it's outstanding that we've got 27 silver awards that were awarded to our Girl Scouts in Chatham. If I may, I'd love to recognize those Girl Scouts: Lily Arps, Charlotte Barnes, Cameron Shull, Madeline Crawford, Alexandra Donahue, Madeline Garman, Paige Zuki, Michelle Moran, Madeline Volovich, Annika Raffetto, Sarah Thomas, Shaban Hillman, Brooke Nugent, Molly Altman, Victoria Kiss, Sophia Smith, Sadie Lamont, Alessa Cooney, Lara Thistlethwaite, Nora Schuber, Hannah Schell, Reagan David, Natalie Yakovich, Chloe Fajol, Asher Robson, and Serafina Gianuso. In 2003, 4 prestigious gold awards were given to our Chatham Girl Scouts. This is the highest award ever given to Girl Scouts. 5% of all Girl Scouts achieve such an award, and each one identifies a community or a global issue, puts forth a plan, researches the root causes of the issue, and mobilize a team to execute the plan. It's a commitment of 80+ hours. And as I said, there are 4 individuals I'd like to recognize: Nicole Muller, who's a Juliet Scout; Miranda Salinger, who's in Troop 94962; Arnie Seth in Troop 94510; and Mary Young in Troop 94962. Anecdotally, I understand that our community used to benefit, we used to have one of the highest Girl Scout participation per capita metrics in the area, and I think it's just a testament to the volunteers, something that Committeeman McHugh has professed was one of the unique things about our community. The parents and, of course, all the girls that are in the community. So hats off to all you girls. It's a fine achievement. I admire all the work and effort you've put into it, and happy to be able to recognize you here on this platform. And that's all I have, Mayor.
Thank you.
It's also cookie season, so if
Yes.
anyone wants to buy cookies,
Yeah.
find a Girl Scout.
Yeah.
So get ready for Samoas and Thin Mints. And as a tantalizing end note, there is a new cookie that's coming forth. It shall be unnamed, and I'll leave you as a Pavlovian response to run to that door when you hear that doorbell to greet that Girl Scout who will be offering those cookies.
Thank you. And congratulations to the Scouts and to all our Scouts in town. A lot of their service projects are directed to the community, so we appreciate their service. My report, I would like to thank our residents who volunteer for the many boards and committees that make Chatham such a great place to live. This evening on the consent agenda, we will appoint our Colony Advisory Committee members, Erin Burgo, Amanda Fowler, Dana Metviner, and Phil Uncle. Asher Robeson will be appointed in a new role as a youth liaison to the Colony Pool Advisory Committee. We will also reappoint Jake Surowecki to the Open Space Committee and Anna McCormick to the Board of Health. In other news and updates, the Planning Board had their reorganization meeting. Kevin Sullivan will serve as chair of the Planning Board. Mike Nybert will serve as vice chair, and Matt Kahn will serve as secretary for the Planning Board. Thank you for your service to all our Chatham Township resident volunteers. And I always have to give a pitch for my Senior Services Center. They're always doing great things, so make sure to go online and sign up for some of the programs they have. I think I will turn it over. Mr. LeConte, do you have any reports?
Dog licensing is now up and running. We have our new software up. I've done, I think, about 94 licenses in the past week. So if there's anyone listening who hasn't renewed their dog license yet, please send in your paperwork. The form's available on the website. It was emailed out to anyone that I had an email for. And if anyone doesn't have it, they can give me a call, and I'll gladly get it to them. And cats are required to be licensed as well.
Can they go online and pay online now, or not?
We don't have that set up yet. We are moving in that direction. We have to get some internal stuff together with being able to accept online payments. Once
Okay.
we have that squared away, we are looking to have online renewals.
Thank you. Mr. Shahadi.
Thank you, Mayor. Three things for your request and some discussions for the highlights. The goal-setting process, and I'll say for 2024, 2025, I've started to reach out to the subcommittees, the standing subcommittees of the elected officials, to have meetings, and that process will look like meetings in February with then a discussion at the March workshop meeting, once I've collected all those subcommittee goals and priorities and initiatives, and then discuss that in public in March, and then hopefully formalize and adopt those for April. I would propose that we do a 2-year goal setting, largely because 4 of the 5 will still be here in 2 years, and also it's hard to set goals, within a year and expect them to be either accomplished or make significant progress. In a township committee form of government, it's hard, so I think it's helpful for some continuity that maybe we set them as 2-year goals. So that's in the near future. The budget schedule for the 2024 budget, a large part of that work was done at the end of 2023, which is, as I promised would happen last year. There's been significant progress to that end. We've got a finance committee meeting February 7th, where we'll be reviewing the preliminary draft of the budget, which would then inform some discussion on the capital budget as well. The goal is to introduce at the March 26th Township Committee meeting with an adoption at the April 23rd meeting. A presentation of the budget is anticipated for the March 12th workshop meeting. If you want to schedule additional presentations, certainly can do that. But that's kind of the time frame that I'm hoping for, and we'll discuss that further with the Finance Committee in 2 weeks. The big thing also that I think people should have on their radar now, and we've sort of alluded to a little bit towards the end of last year, is the tax reval process. So we had received towards the end of last year a letter from the county tax board that they wanted to have us in for a meeting to discuss a revaluation timeline for the town. We finally did receive that order just last week, the formal order. We are looking at a target date of 2027 to have all the new values inputted into the system, effective 2027. That means that the reval will be conducted in 2026. That gives us a good amount of time for us to start doing the basic legwork involved in that. I had a meeting with our tax assessor and the assistant tax assessor today to review a proposed timeline on that. The tax assessor will be at the next workshop meeting to go over that in detail a little bit more. What we'll probably be having to do this year, and what I've requested a proposal of our engineer for, is to update our tax maps. You have to update those before you can get the approval from the State Division of Taxation to do the tax reval. So once I have the proposal from the engineer, probably in the next month or two, we'll be talking about that. To do that, hopefully get that done by the end of the year, send it into the state, get that approval. 2025, we will prepare the bid specs for the reval, make an award to a firm in 2025, and then 2026, that process will start with inspections and field work. In between there, a lot more public relations and advertising and information to the public will come.
So I know our neighboring borough just went through a townwide reval. Ours will be better, yes. But it's, you know, it's 1/3 are going to win, 1/3 are going to lose, and 1/3 are going to wind up in the middle. So it's a stressful and difficult process. I just want to make sure residents are clear what triggers, so it's a required reval by the county. What triggered the reval? Just so they don't understand.
Well, you've got to have them every so often, but what they're looking at are values, and they're looking at the market to assess ratios. So there's a number of things that they're looking at, but for a long time in the state, a lot of counties, a lot of municipalities were getting away with not doing them for 20, 30 years. It's a process that's required by state law, but you know, if you've got a good tax assessor, they're essentially making sure that the market to assess ratio is updated still to make sure that there isn't going to be such a huge fluctuation when the reval happens. I'd rather have the tax assessor give a full, you know, synopsis of all that at the next workshop meeting, so that way if there's any follow-on questions, the committee and the public can have an opportunity to ask them then.
Okay.
It is triggered by ratios.
Thank you. Okay, if there were no other report, I'm going to turn it over to Chief Miller. I think we're good. Chief Miller, thank you for coming. I appreciate you speaking to the committee and to the residents.
For allowing us to be here tonight. With me tonight is Lieutenant Brad Hayworth. He's one of my patrol division planners. He's in charge of deploying our personnel where we need to be. So if you have any questions for him, please feel free. Any point during my presentation, if you have a question, just let me know. We can stop and we can address it then.
Do we have good volume on Chief Miller? I just want to make sure. I'm thinking while you're speaking, maybe if you could pull the mic closer. Thank you. Yeah.
Here on the board is our 2019 to 2023 burglary trends.
Chief, I'm sorry to interrupt you. I'm just going to give you this one for a second. Try that one, please.
Is this better?
One second, let me check. Alex, are you getting it? Yes. Good,
Okay.
Chief.
So first and foremost, I want to make very clear that the safety of our residents will always be our primary focus and concern. We take all patterns of crime very seriously, and we will continually monitor potential threats both locally and on a larger scale. Although most think that our current trend in burglaries started in 2023. In fact, it started in 2020, where we had 5 burglaries in the span of a few days directly related to auto theft. Now, if you see September 2020, that's where our first group of burglaries related to auto theft started. Additionally, we experienced 1 in 2022 and 1 more this past year in 2023. In addition to the 1 auto theft related burglary last year, we had 2 stolen vehicles and 8 attempted burglaries to a home. So if you look at November 2023, we only actually have in 2023 1 actual burglary to a resident. We have 2 total. 1 was a business burglary, and the other was a occupied dwelling. The residents were home, and we believe it was not forced entry, and the garage doors were left open. So here is our 2019 to 2023 auto theft trend. You can see 2023 we were pretty flat. We had a auto theft in January of 2023 and March of 2023. Again, our peak period was 2020, where we had 9 total. So as of today, the township's stolen vehicles have trended downward from a high of 9 in 2020 to 2 in 2023. To add some perspective, statewide from January 15th to the 21st, 248 vehicles were stolen. Over the last 28 days, 1,131 vehicles were stolen statewide. This is currently a 29% reduction from the same time period last year. Currently, year-to-date, compared to last year, there is a 1% decrease statewide. The state's average is currently 39 stolen vehicles per day. These crimes are primarily committed by juvenile criminals who are committing these crimes at the direction of adult criminals. Unfortunately, there's no accountability or consequences for committing these crimes. As such, there's no deterrence, and these young criminals continue their criminal activity. So here's our 2023 stats. As you can see, the black illustrates our 2 stolen vehicles, which one occurred in January and one was in March. And the blue coordinates with our burglaries and attempts. So to be clear, our one home burglary was in June of 2023. The high in November of 3, there were attempts. So within the past couple weeks, we've had 4 attempts total. There's several layers that are addressing auto thefts and home burglaries that are associated with the auto thefts. Our federal, state, and local law enforcement are actively involved with either intelligence collecting, forming task forces to combat these issues, and helping bolster local municipality patrols. Some of these things we are doing locally. We have installed ALPR technologies throughout the township. In the last week of December, we installed 2 additional ALPRs, which brings our total to 7 strategically placed ALPRs. In addition to that, we have 2 mobile-mounted ALPRs in our vehicles. So theoretically, we have 9 total deployed throughout the township at any given time. We have adjusted our patrols, and we are adequately staffed during the times that we have identified as target times. Additionally, Morris County Sheriff's Patrol have been assisting us with directed high-visibility patrols throughout the night. Back in early 2022, a contingent of local police chiefs created the Southeast Morris County ATTF. Those towns include ourselves, Chatham Borough, Madison, Florham Park, Hanover, and East Hanover. In addition to sharing pertinent intelligence, we frequently deploy the task force within our municipalities and have coordinated response plans should we encounter any suspects. Lastly, the Morris County Prosecutor's Office conduct saturated patrols during their ATTF operations. The frequency of these operations vary. Now, this is our 2023, all calls associated with anything auto theft related. Some of these are just ALPR hits. So we had a total of 45 total incidents related to auto theft or burglaries within the township in 2023. 10 of those were actual either attempted burglaries or the 2 burglaries that we had. So most of that is our ALPR activity, correct?
A lot of ALPR activity, yes.
So things that you could do to lessen your chance to be a victim: ensure that all of your doors, including interior garage doors and windows, are securely locked. Park your high-end luxury vehicles in your garage whenever possible. Activate your burglar alarm, especially window and door contacts with flash breaks. Ensure that your surveillance system is in working order. Keep the exterior property well lit and never leave a key fob in your vehicle. Encourage your neighbors to watch out for your home, notifying them if your car is left unlocked or your garage door is left open. We continually see that throughout the night, and our patrols will go 3, 4 o'clock in the morning and knock on somebody's door if they see the garage door open. And it happens quite a bit. Stay aware of your surroundings and report any suspicious activities or persons. In case of a crime in progress, dial 911 immediately. Just so everybody knows, we have what's called live 911 in our vehicles. And what that does, when 911 is triggered, it automatically prompts in the patrolman's vehicle and they hear the call live. So there's no need for the dispatch to now send that to the call taker, which sends it to our unit. So they deploy directly once they hear the call. So it cuts down response time tremendously. Now, with that said, before I open it up to any question, I just want to address one other thing. We recently had an arrest that took place in last December. The arrest involved a charge of human trafficking, among other things. I want to make it very clear that no one in Chatham Township was ever in any danger aside from the victim. At no time was this criminal lurking around Chatham Township or any school property. The case involved a township juvenile who did not attend Chatham schools and a juvenile from Miller County. Both females knew the suspect. I had been getting some feedback that there were concerns from residents because not enough information was put out. But people need to know that once the prosecutor's office is involved, we can no longer make a comment. So, if people would like further information, I would have them address the Morris County Prosecutor's Office for more information. But again, at no time was anybody in any danger.
Thank you. Let's open it up to the committee first, and then we'll open up the public hearing so they can ask questions. Does anybody have any questions for the chief?
Are you seeing, Chief, any patterns with regard to vehicle type and location within the township that seems to be prevalent in terms of where the attempts are occurring?
We were seeing a pattern, and the pattern changed. They were centrally located around the Lafayette Avenue area. Now it has spanned out a little bit. As far as vehicles, anything high-end. They like BMW, they like Land Rovers, they like anything Mercedes, so anything high-end of high value, that's where they're going to make the most money when they sell these cars.
Mayman, did you have a question? Mayman
Yes.
Lois?
I just want to say thank you, Chief Miller, for coming here. You are a real credit to our community, and we are lucky to have you as our police chief. And to you also, Lieutenant Hayworth, thank you for coming, and you're deeply appreciated by this community. I think that you have done a really wonderful job of attempting to address this problem, which is statewide. That said, and without politicizing this, I will say that there are, Sheriff Golden out of Monmouth County has come forward with at least 5 steps for legislature and other elected officials, community leaders, in order to address this problem, 5 steps for them to take. And without politicizing this, I'm just going to ask you if you would be adverse or you think that any of these would not help. And his steps are to include a central transparency list of offenders, prosecutions, to include published arrests, rearrests, and court outcomes and sentences. Number 4 is increased penalties and mandatory sentencing for criminal actors, especially those using electronic GPS tracking and other car theft technologies. To increase mandatory penalties for criminal rings or enterprises that employ juveniles as mules in the commissions of crimes. Number 2 is a mandatory hold of reoffending juveniles who should receive mandatory education and counseling. And number 1, a stepped-up scale mandatory bail and sentencing for reoffenders. And this is to address, these 5 things are to address what Sheriff Golden has identified as to address the legislature and governor in order to take action on catch and release and a failed bail reform act. I'm just wondering if any of those 5 steps that you would disagree with or would say is unneeded.
No.
Thank you.
Just one more comment. I believe back in 2022, we signed or the Township Committee signed an ordinance that supported the Cody and Bucco legislation, which is similar to what you just presented. It had some of the suggestions in his bill.
Yeah, and I think the main, you're absolutely right, we did sign that, and it was, a resolution in support of making those changes. I think the big issue here is that people kind of put up their hands and they say, what more can we do? And it's like, yeah, lock your car, and at some point, you know, you lock your car and, you know, you turn on your alarm and you try to do the right thing, and without blaming the victim, there is still a rising trend of this. I mean, as awareness goes up, as vigilance goes up, we still see it. So clearly, other steps are needed, and I don't believe that those solutions, my personal opinion, they can't come solely from Chatham Township or certainly not the Chatham Township Police Department, and certainly not even this dais. I think it needs to be from elsewhere, and all other sort of energies are minor in comparison to going to what is, in my opinion, these are not your words, of course, in my opinion, the root cause, which are those 5 things that have to do with changes that were made in this state, you know, inappropriately.
I'm not going to get into state policy, but I will tell you that when I've contacted at the county level, at the state level, there is an attention. There are other towns. You know, at the county level, they made me aware that Parsippany had, in our time period, had like 34 thefts, whatever it was. So they are aware. It's on their radar. And like I said, I'm pushing behind the scenes, so hopefully we'll get some traction. But it's not falling on deaf ears right now. I'm going to open the floor for the public hearing, so the public can comment. Mr. LeConte, can you provide the guidance for the public hearing?
So members of the public are now welcome to come up to the microphone to address the Township Committee. This is an opportunity for any member of the public to be heard about issues which are not topics scheduled for public hearings tonight. Those present may step up to the microphone to my right to be heard. If you're watching via Zoom, you may speak during any of the public comment sessions following the Zoom instructions to raise your hand. Whether in person or online, when you are recognized to speak, please mind the following procedures. Please say your name, spell your last name, and give the name of your street. You do not need to give your street number. All public comments will be limited to 3 minutes. Rather than use any of your time answering questions, the Township Committee will wait until you finish speaking before responding. There are 2 public comment sessions on tonight's agenda. Each member of the public will be limited to 1 comment of up to 3 minutes during each public comment period. Written comments submitted to the Township Clerk before 3 p.m. today, which we did not receive any today, but if we had, they would be read during the public comment session. Written comments are subject to the same guidelines as oral comments. Duplicative written comments may be summarized rather than read in full, according to the guidelines issued by the New Jersey Division of Local Government Services.
Thank you. So I would ask anybody who wants to come up to focus our initial questions for the chief. And if anybody's interested, you feel free to come up to the mic. Mr. LeConte, do we have anybody raising hands online?
None on Zoom.
Okay. If we have no questions for the chief, I will thank you. I'm going to leave the public hearing open for any other questions, but I thank you both for coming and for speaking to the committee and to the residents and for all your efforts. I know it's been rough. People are pulling extra hours, all kinds of hours to help protect the town, and we appreciate. Please extend our gratitude to the force. Thank you. Okay, so our public hearing is still open. If anybody else has any other questions you'd like to come up or comments. And I'll check again. Mr. LeConte, do we have anybody with other questions or comments?
No hands raised on Zoom.
Okay, in that case, I will close the hearing of citizens. Next on the agenda, workshop discussion. We missed our last meeting because of the storm and the state of emergency. Were there some things we needed to cover? Because I know you covered a lot in your reports from the workshop meeting.
No, Mayor, I can talk to you briefly with the stormwater control ordinance. We had discussed that a little bit last year, but because of this introduction, there will be time to talk further at the workshop meeting. If there are any questions, our engineer will be there. But what I can say about that is that this is to make sure that we are in compliance this one also really is only impacting what's known as major development, so that's projects where there's more than an acre of disturbance. And as I said, these changes are mandated by the state, but it's not gonna have any impact really on our lot grading ordinance or most single-family homes in the township. A lot of these changes are technical, and it just results in some more conservative stormwater management designs. But as I said, our engineer will be at the next workshop meeting to answer any questions. And the rest of the items on the consent agenda, you received a memo from the chief and correspondence that included myself, the mayor, the police chief, the proposed deputy OEM coordinator with respect to resolution 050. Any questions on that one? 051, that is a handbook amendment that affects just a few of our longtime, most dedicated employees that are non-union affected with respect to their sick leave. It is in compliance with state statute. It's reinstating and clarifying something that is not in the revised handbook, but to put in that peace of mind that those benefits will be preserved. Our Labor Council reviewed that and proposed this resolution as amendment just for that small class. Any questions on that? The resolution 052, that concerns the fiber loop project, that grant that we received. Fortunately, I included in the package the one bid that we received. It was well over our budget, well over the grant. So we're hoping to get more and more competitive bids if we authorize a rebid. So we need to reject that bid and go out to bid one more time. Any questions on that one? I have a few questions on that one. So I was like intimately involved with the fiber loop and writing for the grant, writing for the congressional direct spending for it. It seemed to me that in the engineer's report that the fiber loop somehow had portions of it which involved underground, something underground. And that was specifically like something that we had avoided when we had initially quoted this project because it is so prohibitively expensive. I mean, I'm not, this is not firm, but it might be like 9x the cost of overhead, right? So are there elements of underground that somehow made it into the bid? There may be. I honestly, maybe Laws, I can't answer authoritatively. I wish I had received some of those questions beforehand. I could confirm them. We did have an engineer, an electrical engineer, and IT professionals further review the specs with the chief and Lieutenant Hayworth. And there were some things that obviously, once you get, more technical nature in developing bid specs past just the grant scope, that changes need to be made. Maybe permissions with utilities, maybe logistical reasons. So yeah, there were some deviations from the grant documents. What exactly were those, I can't tell you right now, but I can certainly make sure that, Has the chief had an opportunity to look at the rebid or the documents for the rebid? The rebid? We haven't put the rebid. Right, I can imagine that we are. Okay, so my request would be when we make the rebid that our police chief be able to review those specifications again. We reviewed the original bid specification. As I said, Lieutenant Hayworth were involved in the preparation of the original bid specs. So the rebid would just be rebid of those original specs. So they did review those. Okay, our information conflicts a little bit, and we can talk about that offline, so it's not contentious.
Okay, yeah, let's follow up with that after. Okay, did you have anything else?
Trying to think here, we talked about 055 in executive and 056 in executive, that's it. The rest I would consider pretty routine or standard, anything, unless anybody has any questions, that's it for the workshop.
Okay.
Well, I have a few questions about the workshop that we missed, generally. I mean, so the biggest one is the one regarding grants for our community, because we have a firefighter grant. Well, we have to put together a firefighter grant for new equipment for January 31st. That was the deadline last year. It's a deadline this year. It's been the deadline for the last 15 years that this firefighter grant is available for equipment replacement. And it's the biggest expense that our community has behind affordable housing or potential affordable housing is are these two trucks that I can see. One is a ladder truck and the other is a rescue truck. And we are badly in need of them. So I wanted to know what is, maybe the Public Safety Committee can weigh in on this, but it's just like a workshop item, like what is our plan for pursuing grants, especially related to the fire department?
Are we going over workshop or just
I'm-
everything? I'm trying, this was not on the workshop agenda, it's not on this agenda.
Okay, I'm trying to crystallize it down to a question for you. What is, just tell me, what is the process for,
We apply for grants, I mean,
yeah.
wherever there are grants that we can apply for, we apply for them. If they are fire department related grants, I know for the most recent round of the the most recent round of the AFG grant, I know, the Chatham Township Fire Department submitted an application for that as well. The need for these fire trucks is also in our capital project, our capital budget. We did have a very basic review of that budget, and we'll be going over it more. You know, if there's a grant that we're eligible for to receive, then we will apply for it.
Great, thank you.
But
Okay.
I spoke about these grants specifically last year. I spoke about them in January when this deadline was coming up, and I'm talking about them again tonight because it's a huge expense, and I think that I think we are really doing a detriment to our community by not having a fire and rescue liaison. There are some very specific issues that have to do with our fire department, mostly with equipment replacement, the safety of the firefighters, and then recruitment that are not being attended to closely enough. And maybe there's a better answer than a fire and rescue liaison, but that's the answer that I keep thinking about, that it keeps coming up, that clearly we're not paying close enough attention to grants that are at hand and the needs of our fire department. They are an all-volunteer service, and they desperately need our attention. So I'm gonna volunteer again to be the fire and rescue liaison.
Mayor, my understanding is that the Public Safety Committee acts as a liaison, in addition to the fact that I meet with them regularly and have interactions with them as though they were any other department. So I haven't had any such complaints. They've submitted their capital requests, they've submitted their operating requests. We discuss these things quite frequently. I had just recently a meeting with them on their request for radios, so I'm not sure that
And yet
Yeah.
somehow we've still missed the firefighter grant for replacement vehicles for 2 years in a row at
we
least.
haven't missed it, Committeeman Lois. See, they go through a process. There's selection, there's meeting with vendors, they have to put bid specs. So for me to just say, I want a fire truck, put in a grant for it without really actually the specs and meeting the requirements of that grant is not gonna get you a grant application that will be successful.
Right, but if we had one perhaps at the maybe when I
Okay.
first talked about it last year, you could have some time to prepare it. Of course, we're never going to
Right.
meet a grant application that's due in 10 days. It's not going to happen. You're right.
All right, we got the point. And I will say, because you had mentioned to me the interest in the role of serving as a liaison, in terms of being able to support them from a grant perspective, I will say that most of those volunteer organizations will have people on their boards, and they welcome people on their boards who are going to support that. So regardless of whether or not there's a formal position, which there are formal positions to serve as liaison, but regardless of
if
whether
you
or not
talk
you
to-
are assigned that a formal position, you should certainly feel
You can
That you
ask
could-
the Green Village Fire Department. You can ask Chatham Township Fire Department if I've made substantial, if not mostly wholly, written grant applications on their behalf. Because I am so interested in the welfare of those institutions and their, additive quality to our town, of course. And
okay.
I've done that. I'm asking for it to be formalized. That's what I'm asking for. But if you want to ignore that and move on a different way, if this could be addressed, it would be helpful to our community. The other thing about the workshop, that we missed was just simply the discussion of workshops. And I think there's probably no greater example of why we don't need to have workshop meetings than what's happened right here tonight, which is we can talk things out. We can have a discussion. There can be a back and forth during any formal meeting. And we've seen from having workshop format that all we do is what we've done tonight. We speak to an empty room. We have less participation, less public involvement than we've ever had. We have made an informal session for half of our meetings by going to a workshop discussion. And what it does, what it appears to do is not drive any more views or clicks online, doesn't put any more eyeballs on us, and doesn't put anybody in this room. So I don't know how this is a better dialogue for the community. It doesn't seem to be adding anything in so much. The other part of it that is just the logistical part of sitting down there, where half of our backs are to the audience. Nothing tells people, go home, I don't want to see you, than turning your back to them. And you have half the committee turning their back to the audience. And maybe that could be fixed ergonomically, but it's not the right message. We're sending a visual message. We're sending another message, which is, hey, this is a casual meeting. And then you have the other aspect of it, which is we've told people we're not going to take formal action except for in specific cases at workshop meetings. And at these workshop meetings, we don't take formal action. And what ended up happening was the good ideas, an ordinance that we passed about car thefts, which was loitering with the intent to steal or trespassing, rather, with the intent to commit a crime of some kind. We put together an ordinance that addressed that and gave our police another tool of how to pursue criminals. What we did was it took 5 months for that ordinance to pass because of the workshop. Because you have, well, we're going to talk about it at workshop, and then we're going to wait, and then we'll talk about it next workshop. And then once the thing gets introduced, you have an introduction, then you have another workshop, then you have a formal meeting where you can finally pass it. And it extends out the actual action you can take for no good reason at all. And if we want our staff, if we want our township to be nimble, to be lean, to be what it has always been, then we have to do this by example and not add bureaucracy and layers of, hope of, I'll leave it there. I think you know what I'm saying. I really do not support these workshop meetings, and I think that what it says is, hey, there's a time when we can kind of discuss, and then there's a time where we're just going to ram it all through. Why does that have to be? Why can't we have an honest and open discussion in each meeting?
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Lois. I appreciate your insight on workshops. Can we add the workshop discussion to the next workshop meeting? It was planned for the last one, and we didn't.
Yes, it was planned on.
Thank you. And then we could all provide our input. Thank you.
I'll confirm at a later time, but I think we would have to amend our bylaws by ordinance in order to do away with the workshop meetings. So I believe that was codified a couple years ago when the bylaws themselves were set by ordinance.
Okay, let's start with the discussion, and then we'll see where we go from there. Okay, do I have an introduction? We're going to move into ordinances. Do I have a motion to introduce ordinance 2024-01, the stormwater control ordinance?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
I'll second.
And we already got the background, but just for the benefit of the new committee members, we go through the introduction process. We have discussion, if there's any discussion at this point, but we do, if we vote to introduce, then there's a public hearing that takes place, and then there's a final vote to approve that ordinance. So we're voting basically just to move it forward to the public hearing at this point in time. Did anybody have any questions regarding what Mr. Shahadi explained on the stormwater control ordinance? Any discussion?
Yeah, I have a question about that.
Okay.
It's my understanding that there's a checklist with the state. I forget what that's exactly called, but we have some sort of a checklist, and to my memory, we were compliant with 27 out of 32 or something like that. I'm sure if anybody on this dais is familiar with what I'm asking about, but that is that what's driving our requirement to pass this ordinance? Are we afraid that we're going to lose a point on that checklist, or what would be the penalty if we didn't pass this ordinance?
Yeah, Mr. Shahadi, do you have the answer to that question?
No, checklists don't drive action. Regulations and law do. Checklists are just to help municipalities, accomplish certain goals, or this is required by state law. We have to do this. There was changes to the state stormwater management
Okay, but or else what? Like, obviously, we have some authority, we're exercising it, somebody told us we have to do this, or else what?
Or else you'd be in violation of your oath, Committeeman Lewis. You all took an oath to uphold the laws of the Constitution and the laws of New Jersey, and that's our obligation.
So there's a statute passed that says every municipality must pass this ordinance? I mean, why wouldn't they just pass it at that level? I mean, I'm asking about the nuts and bolts of how this works.
There's some wiggle room, you can make it, there's a bare minimum, you can add to it, but you can't go less than it. So there are certain things that we could certainly go above and beyond with over here. There's certain things that the character of every community, not everything necessarily may apply to a community. So that's what we're doing, we're applying those mandates, those bare minimums, and tailoring it to our municipality, as well as I mentioned, it's been reviewed by the county to make sure that also it's in compliance with a more regional stormwater management plan and the state.
Okay, great. So there's some latitude in it. Have we exercised then? Is this the absolute minimum? I mean, how was this gauged? Was this workshopped? I mean, how was?
Workshop, you were at those meetings, it was probably workshopped at 3 meetings.
Right, and I asked at that time, was this at a minimum? And I'm asking you now.
Engineer responded.
Yeah, well, and the engineer will be here for the next meeting, so, yeah, I would ask you to defer some of those technical questions or detailed questions for when the engineer is here.
Okay.
Okay, so can I get a roll call vote, please?
Mr. Lois?
Yes.
Mr. McHugh?
Yes.
Mrs. Rowland?
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Choi?
Yes.
Mayor Ewald?
Yes.
Motion passes. Public hearing will be on February 27th.
We're going to move on to the approval of the consent agenda. I just want to check, did anybody want to pull out any of the resolutions for a separate vote? Actually, now that I think about it, I feel like you had December minutes.
Yeah, can we vote on that?
You can't vote on the December minutes?
No,
If they were in attendance, can
they
they
can
vote on them?
vote on them. However,
Oh,
I
okay.
think it would be most appropriate. I think you're correct. I feel that it would be most appropriate if they would abstain, but that's up to them. I mean, in terms of Robert's rules, if we're governed by Robert's rules, they absolutely can vote on them.
Just so we know if we need to pull this out, does anybody have an opinion of the new committee members?
I was here for the meetings. I am familiar with the minutes, but I think it's easiest if I just abstain from that particular vote. Or are they combined, Greg?
May I say, we'll have our township attorney here if you want to also.
Can you comment on that? Help me out.
Yeah, I would recommend that any committee members that were not present at the meeting that are the subject of the minutes abstain.
But they were.
Can I rephrase the question?
They were here,
I
but they were not
I was here at the meeting, but I was not a committee member at that time.
Okay, same answer, yes, still, I would still recommend that you abstain, yes.
Thank you.
So which resolution does that apply to? I just remember it's
That
the,
would be items 2 and 3, Resolution 2024-047 and 048. 047 is the regular session minutes, and 048 is executive from December.
okay. So do I have a motion to approve the consent agenda with those two resolutions pulled out, 47 and 48?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
A second.
Can I get a roll call vote, please?
Mr. Lois?
Yes.
Mr. McHugh?
Abstain?
This is for the regular consent agenda.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yes.
Mrs. Rowland?
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Choi?
Yes.
And Mayor Ewald?
Yes.
Motion passes.
And we're going to, why don't we take them together? Do I have a motion to approve resolutions 2024-47 and 2024-48? Do I have a motion to approve?
So
So-
moved.
Second.
Okay, so can I get a roll call vote on those, please?
Mr. Lois?
Yes.
Mr. McHugh?
Abstain?
Mrs. Rowland?
Abstain.
Deputy Mayor Choi?
Yes.
And Mayor Ewald?
Yes.
Motion passes.
Okay, we will open our second hearing of citizens. The same rules that were read earlier apply. Do we have anybody on the Zoom?
We do not have any hands raised.
Okay. Then I will close the second hearing of citizens. I am looking for a motion to adjourn.
So moved?
Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 We are adjourned. Thank you.
Recording stopped.